Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head from the north of Japan all the way to the south of Japan and go to Okinawa this time. So we're going to have a look at a beer that's a little bit of a local speciality. We're going to Helios Brewery today and we're having a taste of their Sheequarsar White Ale. Now this one is a sort of Hefeweizen wit beer kind of thing with a local fruit added. Now the Sheequarsar is somewhere between a lemon and a lime. It's quite a sour fruit actually. So it gives you quite an interesting wheat beer, this one, and it comes in at 5%. I actually tried this one when I was at the bar on the International Street in Okinawa. You might have seen the video I did with Michiko, and I met Philip there. Shout out to him as well, really nice Austrian guy that works at the Helios bar, and he was saying that this is one that I really should try. So I'm looking forward to reviewing this one for you here on the channel and thinking a little bit more about it. It should be really interesting. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Helios. Very first time I'm reviewing one of their beers on the channel, of course, but hopefully I can return and do more. There's all the usual social media, like I said. Make sure you check out my other Japanese beer reviews. Go to the channel homepage and simply search Japan. And of course, you can check out Casey and Eric's channel, Sotogami Akihabira. They've got a channel dedicated to Japanese craft beer. They know quite a bit of stuff about it too, so make sure you check it out. Their videos are quite fun. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Helios Brewery. So Helios Brewery and Distillery, as they are officially, are based on the island of Okinawa. The company is owned by Matsuda Ryo, who actually produces awamori, which is a local Okinawan rice liquor. It made me sick when I tried it actually. They make rum as well, liqueur, and also whiskey apparently. But they began producing beer back in 1998 after Matsuda travelled to Europe and America, and he tasted lots of different beers, wines and spirits, but he actually went on to train in beer brewing in Canada. And the general manager of the brewery is Tamaki Hideya, who apparently travelled Germany to study sausages and how they pair with beer. And this is actually particularly interesting because it's very useful since Okinawa is famous for its black pigs and the pork that's got quite a unique taste actually. If you go to the Helios bar, they've got a lot of these Okinawan pork dishes, and it's quite interesting because it takes the local pork and puts it into German food, which is really interesting. So you can see where this kind of German influence comes from, and most of their beers are actually German style beers. Again, that's quite common in Japan, but they do have some other beers as well. So just to list those for you, they've got in the regular range, they've got the regular Weizen, the lager beer, the paleo, which of course is an English style beer. They've also got the Goya Dry, which uses another local ingredient. I think the Goya is a vegetable, quite a kind of spicy vegetable. And then they also have the Porter beer, which was the one I was most impressed with when I tried it in the brewery. But they also have this one here, the Sheequarsar White Ale, which is one of their seasonal beers. They also have a Spice Ale and the Red Ale, which is their Christmas beer. These are all seasonal beers, so I was actually quite lucky to pick up one of these while I was there. This is usually their kind of spring beer, if you like, sort of April, May sort of time they produce this. So I was lucky to still be able to get one of these. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the review. Always cool to review beers like this that are quite unique. So let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on the can before we open this guy up. Let me bring up the camera. There you are. So you can see it quite nicely presented. It's a creamy coloured can. I'm not sure how well you can see it with the light here, but there you can see the Helios symbol there, Sheequarsar White Ale. And as I mentioned to you, the Sheequarsar is a local kind of Okinawa fruit. I think it does grow in southern Japan as well, in places like Fukuoka. Or I think, do you call that island Kyushu? I'm not quite sure. But it grows in southern Japan as well, but it's a lot more common in Okinawa, and it's quite sour. It's somewhere between a lemon and a lime, so it should be quite interesting to try this beer again and think about it. It's quite a sour kind of lemon limey fruit. So yeah, quite nicely presented. You can see there's the little sticker that they put on when you actually buy something there, and you can see Okinawa Helios Brewery since 1996. So yeah, quite interesting this one. So we'll get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So yeah, let's get this guy out and see how we get on. This can, I think, is a 330 milliliter. The cans here in Japan are slightly different from the West. They've always got this little ridge on the top here, and from what I gather, when it comes to beer, the idea behind that is to make sure the beer comes out with a nice head, and you can see this beer has done exactly that. It actually tells you on the side here, it says, I'm not sure well you can see that, it's got 3 and 7, so the beer should be about 7 parts liquid and then 3 parts head. I think it's a little bit less than that, but you know, you want a nice head on it, and that's what it's giving you. It doesn't matter kind of how much the head is, I don't think. But as you can see, this beer has poured a really nice bright yellow colour. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see there is a degree of transparency there, but it is quite opaque in colour too. I would say it's fair to say this is a bright golden yellow straw colour, this one. There's a finger and a half of a frothy white head on it, but there's some bigger kind of bumpy parts to it too. Some big bubbles of carbonation sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks really quite nice actually. So let's have a look at the aroma of this one, and then we'll get stuck in. So the first thing you're going to notice about this beer straight off is that it has some very unique citrus character. When it's got this fruit in it, you wouldn't expect any less. And to me, it actually comes across as very limey. Not so much lemony, definitely more of a limey character that comes out of this one for me. But that's the thing that comes straight out at you. There's a little bit of grassy hop, maybe some floral character to it as well. But yeah, you can also pick up a little bit of the wheatiness, maybe some kind of coriander spice or something like that. But the aroma really is more focusing on this kind of citrusy character from the Sheequarsar. It is listed on Rate Beer as being a fruit beer rather than a wheat beer, but I would say it's a fruit wheat beer. It's probably a kind of combination of two different styles there. But yeah, it's quite an interesting aroma, this one. A little bit of coriander, you can pick up the wheatiness, a little bit of the kind of coriander sort of clove spice that you would expect from this beer style. A little bit of banana too, but really it is leaning very, very far towards that fruitiness. It does have that kind of sharp, juicy character in the aroma that you would expect of a wheat beer. But yeah, like I say, a little bit of grassiness, some floral character too, a bit of a wheat malt base, some white bread also, and a little bit of a kind of clovey, kind of coriander spice and some banana in there. But really, like I say, the aroma leans more towards the grassy hops and that nice kind of lemony and mainly lime fruit character actually. So it's a really interesting aroma. If you get the chance to try this one, I would recommend you do it. And I remember this beer pairing very well with the Okinawan pork that we ate when we were in the bar. So let's get stuck into this beer then. We'll give it a try. So I'll give a shout out once again to Philip, the Austrian guy who works in Helios Bar. Very, very nice dude. If you get the chance to go to International Street in Okinawa, you might see him there. Thank you for giving us a good time in the restaurant when we were there. Let's get stuck in. The Sheequarsar White Ale from Helios Brewery in Naha, Okinawa. Kampai. Yeah, it's really interesting that, because like it is kind of like a fruit beer, but once you move into the aftertaste, that's when you start to get the more wheaty things out of this one. So it's very interesting in that regard. At first, it comes across as very juicy, very lemony, very limey, and then you just get the more wheaty aspects of the beer on the back end of it. It's really interesting actually. So yeah, the middle of your palate, like I say, the beer is mainly juicy when you first come into it, pardon me, but then you get this white bready character that just goes right across the middle of the palate. It just blankets the palate there, so you've got a nice white bready character. Later on in the aftertaste, you can start to pick up the more thicker and wheaty aspects of the beer. There is a little bit of kind of coriander or clovey aspect to this one. I'm not getting much of the banana actually that I was expecting. It's mainly a bready, wheaty character that's coming out of this one, but you can get some of the coriander spice coming out of this one a little bit later on. Yeah, definitely more of a kind of, it's very interesting how they've got this blended, because with a Hefeweizen beer you always get a bit of citrus and a bit of floral, grassy, aromatic character coming out of it on the sides of the palate. This one is actually really dry. It's really quite dry around the edge of the palate, but at the same time it's juicy as you start to move into the middle of the palate, so it's really kind of unusual in that regard. So at the back sides of the palate you've got this sort of floral, aromatic grassiness. That's really just giving you all this dry character on the edge of the tongue. As you come round the front curve of the palate, you get a little bit more of the dry, kind of smoother, grassy character, I would say. And as you go just in behind the front curve of the palate there's a little oily bubble, and that's mainly a kind of juicy, lemony character coming out of that one, I would say. It's more lemony, but then the fruitiness that kind of goes around the edge of the palate is more limey, I would say. And the one thing you always notice about fruit beers is that when they add fruit to the brew rather than bringing the esters out of the hops, you always get this kind of wet character around the edge of the palate. So just pay attention to that. On the edge of your palate you'll feel this juiciness, and that's where a lot of the limey aspects of the Sheequarsar fruit are coming out. You'll feel this beer come in and it's very, very juicy, then it just dries out, becomes a little bit more floral, and then you start to focus on the more wheaty aspects of the beer. So it's really interesting in that regard. But yeah, in terms of wheat beers that I've tried before, this one is definitely quite unique. It starts off like a fruit beer and then moves more into the wheat beer. It's not really much like a German Weizen, I would say. And incidentally, the Weizen that you get from Helios, Michiko had one of those and I tried it. The regular Weizen that you get from these guys is pretty good and pretty close to a German Weizen beer, just a little bit lighter in the mouthfeel, I would say, obviously because of the heat in Okinawa. But this one is a kind of completely different thing. It's not really like their Weizen at all. This one is just a little bit lighter, I would say. You have the same, you can taste the same wheat in it, but the whole kind of makeup of the beer is quite different, I would say. But it's really nice and juicy with that Sheequarsar fruit in it. It's very nicely done, and the flavours blend together really quite well. It's not going to blow you away in terms of flavour, this one, but it's more of the fact that the flavours in the beer are unique. It's not something that's going to blow your taste buds out the water, but it blends together very, very nicely, I would say. So when it's a fruit that you're not going to come across too often, you do want to check this one out, I would say. So in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this one is quite light-bodied, maybe pushing the mid-bodied category a little bit. It's very smooth in terms of its carbonation, so it reflects German beer that way. And it's actually got a little bit of an almost creamy feel to it, but overall the mouthfeel is quite juicy, and as you move into the aftertaste it becomes drier, and it's the floral aromatic characters and the lemon and limey flavours from the Sheequarsar that's starting to come out actually. So it's interesting in that regard. It starts off very, very smooth, then it dries out as you move later into the taste in the beer. So yeah, overall I would say with this one, with this brewery, since this is a seasonal beer, the beers I would recommend you try from these guys would either be the regular Weizen or the porter beer. I was particularly impressed with the porter that they do. The porter was really quite nice actually. I would recommend you try that or the Weizen if you can't find this one. This one's a little bit more unique, and for a tourist like me, this is the sort of thing I guess that you want to go for. And this beer itself is very unique, and the fruit itself is quite interesting. It's quite a tasty fruit actually. I tried some of the fruit on its own, and it's very sour. It's a lot more sour than comes across in this beer. This beer gives you the more kind of juicy aspects of the fruit flavour, but very unique and definitely a nice kind of tasty summer brew, this one. This is one that will quench your thirst if you're sitting on the beach or something like that. Really quite an interesting beer. So yeah, make sure you go and check out Helios Brewery. This has been a really quite interesting wheat beer, or fruit beer I guess you can say as well, to review. A unique kind of Okinawan fruit called Sheequarsar that you're not going to come across every day. One thing I wouldn't recommend you try in Okinawa though is the awamori. Awamori and shochu I just do not like. They're not very nice at all, but the Nihonshu is very, very nice. I would recommend that you try that, but I don't think you get that in Okinawa. I think it's mainly awamori, which is essentially Okinawan shochu. But make sure you try some of the Helios craft beers. They're producing some pretty nice stuff. Like I say, porter or Weizen is good, and if you can find this one, and I hear that the red ale is a very nice seasonal beer too if you're there at Christmas, so make sure you go and check them out. Say hi to Philip if you find yourself in the restaurant on International Drive. You can check out my video I did. But as always, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media, but let me know your own thoughts on this beer and the brewery in the comment section below. Always great to hear from you guys, and to those of you watching in Japan, please do let me know some other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Until the next time, it's Lanja just now. Make sure you go and check out Helios Brewery from Okinawa in Japan. Kanpai.